Wendy Rule, plus an Equinox Ball Saturday night with music from Spiral Rhythm. Come to Pecanonicon to experience deep community where people gather, learn, socialize, and get inspired. Register now to take advantage of the weekend discount in effect until February 18th. Go to tcpaganpride.org and click on Pecanonicon to register and get more details.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy conditions clear out with a low of 28. Then Tuesday, clouds return with a high of 52. Randy Rainbow is bringing his Randy Rainbow for President tour to the State Theater in Minneapolis on Friday, February 23rd. Get tickets at randyrainbow.com.
Portions of
the views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me on this Monday evening. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone, as I've been saying all winter long, which is pretty spectacular, to be honest, I hope everyone's enjoying this warm weather out there. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I've just been really, I just can't believe it still. I kind of made it a mission all winter long to basically wear shorts. That was just like, this is just how I exist. I'm going to be wearing shorts. I don't want to, it makes me sound like a pervert when I say this. I don't want to wear pants. Okay. That's really what it comes down to, but don't worry. I am acceptable to society. I'm not doing something lewd or weird. I'm just wearing shorts, but at the same time, I am just like absolutely I'm over the cold, and my legs never get cold anyway. Now, that's too much information. I understand that. But I do want to share something. This weekend, a number of us were over at the Grant House in Rush City, and where we normally get together, and we with the students that take our class, and we had a fantastic time. I do want to let everyone know about this new restaurant at the Grant House called The Fort. And I believe that they used to have a location in Stacy, Minnesota. They just opened up in mid-January. That place was hopping. It was really cool to see. And the food is very good. I talked to one of the owners, Shannon, out there, and it was really cool. And once again, the food was good. I posted a picture on my social media. It was carnita fries, and that was pretty legit. So if you're out in the area, or you want to make a trip out in that area, check out the Fort in the Grand House. And while we were there, and I kid you not, while we were there, we were using a couple different pieces of paranormal equipment. We were doing investigations there. We were trying a couple things out, and it's really interesting because suddenly we were using this thing called the necrophonics. And I just said, it sounded like Queen Elizabeth II. And we're all just like, oh, that's interesting. And then for some reason, I took out my spirit box. We weren't doing the necrophonics anymore. And I started just, we started to think, well, what if, she might still be here? And on one of the obelisks, that was a word came up, a name came up, and it was Elizabeth. And like, now this is very interesting. So I'm like, Your Majesty, I just wanted to say how much I admired you. I really was I'm being a kind of a big fan of the UK. I'm a big fan of that at least that moment of the royal family. So I'm like, I really appreciate you. I really I really liked you. And you get this through the spirit box, this thank you. Like this very high toned, very reserved, very pleasant woman who, watching a lot of this stuff, I'm like, that sounds like Queen Elizabeth. And then Shar, she is just like, same thing, Your Majesty. And she went on, and you heard it again. Thank you. And I at that point, Shar said something else, and I didn't hear her. I just heard part of it, and I'm like, what did you say? And she goes, I just said, Your Majesty, I just really I really appreciate everything you've done. And I said, oh, when you said Your Majesty, I thought you're talking to me. And through the spirit box, I can't say it, but you get F you. And that was, I just said, was I just told to, what, off by Queen Elizabeth II? And I kind of think I was. And the thing is about that is that she had a wicked sense of humor. That is something that is very well documented about her. She had a very wicked sense of humor, and that was really cool to be able to have that moment. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with everybody. So tonight, I am really happy that we're able to bring on Reverend Briana Lee. She is an interfaith minister, Wiccan priest, and Reiki master whose life has been steeped in mysticism since childhood. Early on, her family practiced energy healing and psychic shielding together, then moved into actively studying spiritual principles as a group. In her mid-teens, she survived a major traumatic event that launched her into studying alternative medicine and spiritual practices from around the world to find the means of true healing. By her early 20s, Briana was actively assisting and teaching Wicca to others, as well as writing and performing public group rituals. It was then that she realized her passion lies in leading others through transformative ceremony connect with their divine source. Over time, she has gained several certifications and ordinations, volunteered with several teaching covens, as well as pagan projects and oriented festivals. Today, she offers healing services, consultation, and group experiences through Megas Books in Minneapolis, as well as making house calls. In addition to healing and custom ceremonies, Reverend Briana Lee specializes in psychic defense, working with spirits and exorcism. To learn more, go to animapraxis.com. That's ANIMAPRAXIS.com. There's an about section. You'll find her there. Reverend Briana, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for having me back. It's good to see you again.
You didn't think that I was really known amongst royalty, did you?
I didn't. I'm surprised. I'm like, wow. I'm honored to be here now. How do you feel? Do you feel anointed? Do you feel royal? How do you feel?
I am just, I feel better than I feel like I'm better than most of you now. I mean, let's just be honest, obviously. I mean, what else could one feel? And just a curtsy wouldn't go amiss at this point, Brianna. I'm just saying that. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And here's the thing. You do this stuff, you've done it your whole life, and this is kind of the sweet spot of doing paranormal investigations, reaching out to spirit. I won't even call it paranormal investigation, reaching out to spirit, being this where you can have a rapport with a spirit. Can I say with 100% certainty that was Queen Elizabeth II? Absolutely not. No. But what I can say is that it's fun. At the end of the day, it's fun.
Right. And that's why, that's part of the whole appeal, right? It's like this little fun mystery that we get to interact with. Like, what is it? Who is it? What does it mean? And it just always kind of speaks to how there's more to life than meets the eye. So
absolutely. Now, when we had you on last time, we were talking about all wonderful things of darkness. It was a very, as my show often does. But we wanted to also talk about intention setting tonight. And there's a lot of stuff that you kind of want. You are packed, and that's why we're going to see Reverend Briana on often, because she has a lot to say and a lot of good information to share with people. And I feel like, Reverend, that this is more like it's more needed than it's ever before, perhaps. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get to here.
I completely agree. I mean, especially because I just found out about this new movie that came out called Tarot. And of course, it's a horror movie about people drawing cards and the evil spirits that come through. And I'm like, I got things to say. I got things to say. And as people are opening up and opening up to the spirit world, more and more curiosity, more and more people are experiencing psychic abilities that they didn't maybe know that they had. And I feel like people need to understand that there's certain things that you should know or learn or be prepared for, so that you don't end up as like someone who got possessed or having a terrible haunting or having nightmares with your kids. Like, there's ways to prevent those things. And it's important to get into it and start to unpack it so that people are prepared, because they want to know the mysteries. I mean, what's cooler than talking to spirits? I don't know. That's my whole life. I don't know.
That's just it. There is nothing cooler than that, is there? Especially when you can, I mean, literally, I feel like anyone throughout history, and it doesn't have to be a famous person, it could be a relative or something, you can have, if you're careful enough and you know what you're doing, you can have conversations.
Yeah, you can have conversations and learn things and get information that you wouldn't have otherwise.
And I agree with you. The fact of like, okay, we're going to weaponize tarot readings. I mean, doesn't that feel like that's what that is?
Jeez. Well, and yes, and I find it really strange because, well, I've been having this phenomenon where I'm like watching stuff on YouTube, and all of a sudden people are coming out, oh, the demons of the New Age, the demons of tarot, la la la, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? I mean, like, if it's okay for me to share this, like, my parents met through a tarot class my dad was teaching. Okay. Tarot's been a part of my life my whole life. I had my own collection of decks by the time I was 10. Like, I would really argue that it's not the tool, it's the attitude and frame of mind that you're in when you use them. And that's really kind of what I want to get into, is to help people prepare themselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for when they do dive into this stuff.
Absolutely. And I it's just a shame because I feel, and this is maybe the negative Nelly in me, I feel like that people are going to use that as an excuse for all sorts of things that come out of that, like, oh, I tried it and I was taken over for 3 weeks or something like that,
Right. And then, I mean, I'm surrounded by tarot card readers, like, people listening, I work at Magus Books. It's an occult shop. We have readers there. I'm surrounded by magical and occult objects day after day. And yeah, like I feel like there is a little bit of this push to start to push that back into the realm of fraudulent activity. And I'm like, if we were going to be able to get rid of that, we would have gotten rid of it 2,000 years ago when they first started persecuting people who did divination. It's not going away. It's not going away. So
well, and divination is kind of a hot topic these days itself, isn't it? When you were there at Ghost Stories last month when we had Joe Frankie there, and he was using, and I like Joe. We all know I like Joe, but he was using divination as if it was a bad word.
Right. And I've been hearing this where it's like, oh, your divination tools act as a portal to these demonic spirits, et cetera, and so on. And I'm like, okay, they can. Yeah. But if you put the proper container around it, if you handle them properly, like, for example, if you want to get into tarot cards or divinate, or even Ouija boards for that matter, first and foremost, you have to put your tools away. You don't just leave stuff out. You don't leave it laying around. Okay. You pack it up. So number one thing to get you started is if you want to have these things in your house, pick somewhere special to put them, a special box, a black cloth, something so that it's like there's a definite beginning and ending to working with them. That's my first piece of advice. And when he started talking about, the tarot, can act as a gateway and all of this sort of thing, I'm like, anytime you open up your mind to try and receive information in a non-ordinary way, when you're meditating, when you're trying to have that connection to spirit, whatever, doing a mediumship session with spirits, anytime you open up your mind, you're creating a portal. So you don't even need the tools to invite this stuff in, and what it seems to me when I hear these stories about people who encountered demons or had bad experiences, the commonality in their stories to me always sounds like they were in a low place. They were depressed. They were looking for something outside of themselves to tell them how to be or how to behave or what to look forward to. There's some disassociative aspects where they're not connecting with their grief or they're not connecting with whatever negative emotions they have. So when you open up to the spirit and when you start bringing in this information, all of that junk, all of that resonance, all of that frequency of negative emotions is what attracts these beings to you, So the first thing you want to learn about is grounding, and then how to connect with yourself and your higher self. And then you want to learn about shielding and how to properly begin and end a session, so you're not just randomly opening up to whatever,
I want to take it a step further, and we got to take a break here, but I do want to just plant the seed, and we'll get your thoughts maybe on the other side of the break.
Sure.
But the idea too is I feel like, and folks, I don't mean Joe Frankie when I say this, okay? Joe has
he was great.
Great investigation.
So, no shade at all.
But what I will say is I've run across people who have, they talk that way, or they don't have the respect for some of the stuff. And I believe these are paranormal investigators, I actually believe that they're people who don't actually believe at all. And those are also the same people that are going to they're going to yell at spirits and be a problem in investigations. So that's my thought. Let me get your take on that after the break. Why don't we take our first break? When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Reverend Briana Lee. We got a lot to talk about here. We only got started. It's going to be a great conversation. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Then you need to be listed on metamorphosisconnections.com. It's a network where you can grow with like-minded practitioners and reach new clients. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory you need to list yourself and your business. Our platform makes it easy for you to create listings of your products and services, and you can also choose to list your classes, events, and so much more. Metamorphosisconnections.com helps you create weekly and monthly promotional ads targeted towards your potential clients and promotes them for you via social media and newsletter. There are clients searching for your specialty right now. Let us help them find you. Start your listing today so you can share your own unique gifts and talents by finding the level of membership that best fits your needs. Let us help you reach your clients that are searching for what you do. Visit metamorphosisconnections.com and sign up today.
Hello, I'm Jody, also known as Witch Jody on social media. I opened Midwest Witchery and Healing in historic Stillwater because as a nurse, I love to help others. When you come and visit Midwest Witchery and Healing, you will find everything from divination and magical services, classes to ritual tools, jewelries, handcrafted candles, witchy gear, and much more. My store is a safe environment for all on their own unique path. Look for the purple door. Find out more at MidwestWitcheryHealing.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Twin Cities Pagan Pride is thrilled to host Paganicon 2024, March 15th through the 17th at the Crown Plaza, Minneapolis West Hotel. Paganicon is a pagan conference offering workshops, panels, discussions, social space, music, hall vendors, and more. Paganicon is an educational and social venue for pagans, Wiccans, heathens, druids, people of other folk, craft, indigenous, and magical traditions. At Paganicon, you'll be able to see notable guests as writer and spirit woman Moia Umami, Beverly Smith, also known as Dr. Beverly, Cree storyteller and medicine woman Daffy Puyak, and Chief Arvel Looking Horse. Friday night, there's a concert with musical storyteller Michael Charette, also known as Laughing Fox, Wendy Rule, plus an Equinox Ball Saturday night with music from Spiral Rhythm. Come to Paganicon to experience deep community where people gather, learn, socialize, and get inspired. Register now to take advantage of the weekend discount in effect until February 18th. Go to TC.
And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me on this wonderful Monday evening. And I do want to say real fast before we get back to Reverend Briana is just a reminder to folks that this Wednesday is Ghost Stories and Beyond. We're going to be over at Billy's Bar and Grill, and we're going to do what we did. We did this last year, and it's a presentation from the Grant House. We just talked about the Grant House, the first segment. We call it 18 minutes of nonstop paranormal activity at the Grant House. This was from November 2022. We did a session that was spread across the entire hotel. And what ended up happening, we got 18 minutes of some of the most beautiful recording in spirit that I have ever heard my entire life. And this was a group of our students and Shar and myself. We had this incredible situation, and so grateful for it. And last year we had all the students tell the story. This year they are very much still part of the story, but we're just kind of streamlining it, and just Shar and myself will be going through it, and we're really excited to share. If you've heard it before, it's worth hearing again. If you haven't heard it before, come on out to Billy's this Wednesday. It's $10 a person to get in, does not include food or drink. But the good news is that Billy's has a bar. That's a good news for me. And it also, burgers are half price. Also, real fast, my friends, this month, the month of February, is Listener Appreciation Month on AM 950. Thank you all so much for listening to my show. Thank you for listening to all the shows and supporting us. I think that AM 950 is one of the most special radio stations that has ever existed. The programming, their philosophy, their level of inclusion is not like none I've seen anywhere else. And we're a small business. We're not owned by like a big, media conglomerate. So all this month, we just want to thank you all so much for listening. We're giving away prizes all month. This Friday, I am giving away tickets for the Listener Appreciation event that's going to be happening on February 13th. Obviously, I have a lot of people who are not in Minnesota that listen, but just those of you who are in Minnesota, you have a chance to win if you'd like to. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I just wanted to thank you all so very much for listening and being here for us. This is, as I said to someone today, talking about doing the show, it's a dream come true, and it's truly one of the highlights of my life. So thank you all very much. We have on with us tonight Reverend Briana Lee. We've been talking about all sorts of things. We've already gone off script, Briana. I mean, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was like, I can riff on it, no problem. Let's just go. This is
how I operate. Is it? But
I love it.
I don't mean that with disrespect. It's not like, well, that's how cute. You gave me something to talk about. We're not going to do it. No, I don't mean that at all. It's like, wasn't this nice? She gave some effort, but we're going to be talking about me now. So a couple things we had talked about, but I do want to get to what you had wanted to kind of talk about, because I think where you're coming from here is that you're seeing this out in your work, and you kind of want to talk about it a little bit. And one of the things that you were interested in kind of like having a conversation about is what makes people a target.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I think
yes.
I think that's a really good point, because I don't think, I think there's a lot of answers to it, but I'm really curious to know, like, where you're coming from with it.
Well, it's been on my mind quite a bit because, like, people come to Magus all the time. I have this problem, I have this spirit, I have this haunting. What do I do?
Mhm.
And then you see, these stories like where people are talking about, like, the entity that they had, or the problem that they have, or the haunting, or the possession, or whatever. And it really it's really been striking me, Greg. It's that what these stories have in common is, and you kind of brought this up before, talking about people who don't believe, that are trying to, like,
Yeah.
aggravate the spirits. And I think it's not even about belief, because, like, I've had things brought to me that I didn't believe in, that I didn't know I asked for in any way. So it's not so much about belief as so much as, like, wanting to have something proven, and prove it to me, prove that
Yeah.
you're real, show me something. It's that sense of demanding.
Yeah.
And but not even just that. There's no honor, there's no respect for who it is you're reaching out to. And I feel like a lot of times when people are exploring the spirit realm, it's sort of like they have $1 on the street corner, and they're like, hey, who wants my dollar?
Yeah.
And then you're not going to get some high class businessman that way. You're going to get the guy with the sign.
Yeah.
So it's all about your approach. Like, how are you approaching these spirits, and what state of mind are you in when you go? It's not just even about being demanding, but, like, when you're, like, I was just watching this video recently. This person was talking about how, they had gone through all this grief, they trauma, lost their father, and went on kind of this spiritual journey of seeking and trying to find answers. But it was like, the whole time he's telling his story, he's not really getting into the fact that he's full of grief, and he can't connect with his grief. So he keeps trying to connect and call for something outside of himself, and ended up meeting this dark entity that was more or less the conglomeration of all of the negative feelings that he couldn't himself connect to. And this kind of ties in a little bit to some of the conversation I wanted to have about magical theory. Like we kind of understand manifestation, where it's like what you think about becomes real, right? Well, if you think about how everybody might have ever felt jealousy, and then we talk about the spirit of jealousy, that spirit becomes alive. It takes on a life of its own because we put energy into it, right? So these dark entities that come at people, they're not necessarily demonic as we might understand it from the Bible or from demonology, but they're entities that have been created over time because of negative emotions, negative energy, that have taken on a sentience, that now, because of your trauma, your grief, your sadness, you're resonating with them and actually calling them in. So one of the things that we talk about in Wiccan circles when we're training our students is this work, getting into the realms of the spirit and performing magic and all of that, can exacerbate any mental health problems that you have. Okay. If you're not mentally sound, the first thing you need to do is learn how to meditate. If you're someone that tends towards anxiety, you need to learn how to ground. If you're someone that tends to be fearful, you need to learn how to face your fears. And we often will tell people to go get therapy and get regulated before they try to enter into this world. And it's the same thing. If you're out there totally unhinged, suffering from trauma, screaming into the abyss with your dollar, like, that dollar represents your energy that you're putting out, right? Who's going to come and respond to that? And you need to be conscious. I don't think people are conscious enough because they don't believe, or they don't understand, or they don't really know where to start. They know they're curious, but, like, what do they even do? So I've been thinking about this a lot, especially since we've got, like, the whole tarot movie coming out, and and it's just like, there are a lot of dark spirits out there. There's a lot of dark entities.
It is, and a couple thoughts I have on that.
Sure.
And we were just talking about this. I don't remember. I don't know if it was Shar or whomever I talked to the other day about it. We're talking about a piece of paranormal. Not equipment, but a paranormal antiquity that may or may not look like what's behind me. And
Okay,
the
yeah.
idea and the
I noticed
idea
that.
of and the idea of if it's what's being brought out to these conventions is not the real one, okay? And then someone said to me, well, okay, but what if, because I said, well, there's still people going up to it being like, I could feel its energy and stuff like that. And someone said exactly what you just said was, but if people are putting that energy into it, are you now creating that very thing, but a different version of it?
Yes, 110%. And that's something we definitely teach our students when we get into Wicca and working with magic, is that what you put and in magical circles, we call it creating a servitor or an egregore, where we're intentionally creating an entity to do our work for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so this can happen in a very casual manner. Maybe that's not the right word, but like what people who act as magicians who do it on purpose, and then there's things that develop unpurposefully, like everyone sees this doll and they recognize it as the haunted doll, so they send that thought into it, and that over time, with enough people believing and seeing and talking and thinking about it, that energy conglomerates and begins to take on a life of its own, and it can evolve into something else. Absolutely.
What do you think about, because you alluded to this too, we talked about the people who may not believe, but it seems like that if you don't believe, or I think the better term in what I'm trying to express is respect, and they don't respect any part of it, and to your point, they then challenge it. Why do you have any idea? Do you have any thoughts onto why it's like, okay, you don't believe, fine. Why are you in this field? I don't know. Why you're trying to connect to energy, I'm not sure then. But then to be like, instead of being like, oh, I'd love to be proven wrong, please come and talk to me. Instead, they're like in a room, they're provoking, they're like, screaming, come and get me. And it's like, that's why I said, I think sometimes they actually do not believe, because I think that it's an easy way for people like that to try to look tough.
Right.
They try to look, and like, I can take anything. And it's like, because they don't really believe it to begin with. But I'm curious your thoughts though, on what, the people who are trying to, like, they're trying to confront it negatively.
I think part of it is the whole fascination that humans have with the horror show. They're hoping for something scary. They're looking for that jump, that pop, that scream, that scare, that thing that gets their, adrenal glands going. And I think that's part of it, is that they're thrill seeking and they're looking for that heart pounding horror show. Right. But more than that, I think there's this sort of idea that unless you provoke it, you're not going to get a real verifiable response. I think it's like they're provoking it because that energy then is maybe a little bit stronger than, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. Hi, Queen Elizabeth. That's a whole different kind of energy that you're putting out there. And I think when people do that and they're just like, it's they're trying to put that frenetic energy out there to stir up and see what comes back. And it's a dark game that people play that is dangerous.
They don't understand, do they?
They
really
don't.
do not.
They don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand what they're asking for. And I mean, if you're going to walk into someone's house, do you start screaming at them to prove their existence in that space? Like, you walk into somebody's house and you're just like, I demand you show me the proof that you blah, 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 blah. Of course you're going to pick a fight. Of course the person who lives there is going to be like, heck with you, and now I'm going to hit you over the head with this thing from the ceiling because you pissed me off, and
it's funny. It's funny. It is like, you don't exist, Briana. I just,
screw you. I'm going to prove my existence. Take that.
In the comments here, Emily says that she just had this conversation like 2 hours ago, or you just had seen the future, perhaps, and you were actually listening to us. Let's see. Julianne says it's a law of reciprocation. You put out energy, you get it back. Well, yeah, and I think that people just not all people. Some people
Right.
just
Some
don't
people.
understand that.
Yeah.
And it's, Robin says, like kids with the Ouija board. I mean, and that is, I agree with that for sure. I think that's a good point.
And speaking of kids with Ouija boards, part of, when you're a kid, you don't really know any better. So it's not like you are developed enough to have a lot of self-awareness or self-reflection. And so I think a lot of times when kids get into Ouija boards and they're not taught how to properly set a stage, set the intention, properly protect the space, and they open it up, and then their sort of innocence and questioning and curiosity also brings in predatory spirits.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with teaching kids how to work with divination. I mean, kids are open, and I see this at Magus. Like a lot of times parents are coming in going, my child has these abilities. I'm not really into this stuff, but I don't really know what to do or where to start. And so we teach them about rocks, and we teach them about grounding, and we teach them about shielding. And I would really argue that if you're curious about the paranormal yourself and want to explore it as a family, you really need to start with learning psychic self-defense. You need to learn with how to protect yourself and your space first before you even try using a Ouija board, before you even try the tarot cards, before you even try to dive into any of that stuff. Like these are all like prerequisites in my mind before you even try to go down that road. And nobody talks about it. Nobody's really teaching it.
No. How awesome though are those parents to come in and recognize and be fully like, yeah, I don't know what this is, but I'm recognizing like that. I think that's a way a parent knows their child really well.
Right. And I love working with them. I had a family in one time where it was like the husband was kind of the skeptic and the wife was kind of like I'm kind of like a medium, but I'm not totally comfortable with my abilities. And their two daughters were like wide open, experiencing all kinds of phenomenon. And they were like, we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think part of, I think we're changing as people, as a society. People are opening up and experiencing psychic abilities more than ever before. And a lot of people they experience phenomena and don't even know where to start or where to go or what to do. And so starting with protecting your space is the number one thing, and learning how to shield your mind and shield your body and invoking appropriate spirits to protect you in whatever it is you're exploring. Those are like my top recommendations for where to start.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about that, but I want to also get into a break real fast as keep things moving here. We're talking with Reverend Briana Lee. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to have her back on to talk more here, but we have one more segment. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Magus Books, your multicultural spiritual supply store. Stop in and expand your horizons with books, classes, readings, and supplies at magusbooks.com or in our shop at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis. From the best incense to beautiful statues, we have supplies and books for your spiritual explorations. Come in and chat with our knowledgeable staff and get what you need for your next adventure, whether you're fighting ghosts or opening your third eye. Check us out today at magusbooks.com.
Hello, I'm Jody, also known as Witch Jody on social media. I open Midwest Witchery and Healing in historic Stillwater because as a nurse, I love to help others. When you come and visit Midwest Witchery and Healing, you will find everything from divination and magical services, classes to ritual tools, jewelries, handcrafted candles, witchy gear, and much more. My store is a safe environment for all on their own unique path. Look for the purple door. Find out more at MidwestWitcheryHealing.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy conditions clear out with a low of 28. Then Tuesday, clouds return with a high of 52. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soup, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte.
And join us tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We are going to have on author Steve Schenken. We're going to be talking about, it's not paranormal, but it's some very interesting history we're talking about tomorrow. And that is the plot to steal the corpse of President Abraham Lincoln in the 1870s, okay? And what's even more amazing than that, because it's quite the story, what happens to his body after that is one of kind of sad, but it really shows that I feel bad. I mean, they weren't done with him. Like, the universe was not done with Lincoln, even though he was assassinated. And there are people that wanted to steal his body, do all sorts of things. We're gonna talk about that tomorrow, and it's quite the history lesson. We are talking with Reverend. Did your mind go somewhere kind of?
Sorry, I was thinking about
Lincoln's
corpse. What? Oh my gosh! Sorry.
Wow. They tried to steal his corpse. Yeah, no, it's quite the incredible story, and this was like 10 years. Like, I think it was 11 years after he was assassinated. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We are talking with for our final segment, Reverend Briana Lee. We've been talking about all sorts of things. Before we go further, though, please go down to Central Avenue, check out Mega's Books. We've talked about it a little bit throughout the show, but honestly, I'm going to be down there. When I'm coming down Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, yeah. Yes,
that's going to be cool. We're gonna work on some stuff, but that's a cool shop you got there.
It is. Thank you very much. And it's been in operation for over 30 years. And so we specialize in all the supplies, all the grimoires, all the books. I mean, you can find just about anything there that you might be looking for when it comes to doing magic, magical theory, working with spirits, all the things. We got what you need. And I'm there. So if you got burning questions about what to do about your haunted painting, come on down Wednesday through Saturday.
It was great. When I was there last time, someone was very excited to meet you there.
Oh, that was so cute. I loved her. That was great.
And then they were excited to meet me there.
They were. It's like,
I have to one up you, Brianna. I have to one up you. It can't just be like
that's all right.
At you. It's
Your
like,
Highness.
And then the best part of the story was this. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun. You got to go down to Mega's Book. Nikki says that Mega's Books is historic Minneapolis landmark. There's so many good things in there, and I just was kind of laughing at when you said earlier, like, I'm surrounded by Ouija board, or not Ouija boards, tarot cards, and like, you literally are at the store for sure too.
Yes. And I did, and when you were there, I showed you our haunted deck. We do have a haunted deck of cards. And how we determined that this deck was haunted was everybody who worked there had this weird feeling about the particular corner of the room. And when I went over there to try to figure out what it was, I'm like going through each object. I ended up getting a burn mark on my arm being in that cabinet. And then like books started flying, like literally flew off the shelf. And after going through each item, we determined it was this deck of cards. And if anybody wants a necromancer's deck, it's called Graven Images. Okay, it's a used deck. And this is, and I would like to speak to this just for a second, because in the trailer for that tarot movie, it's like, oh, you're not supposed to touch somebody else's deck. And someone's like, oh, whatever, let's just do this. And then shenanigans ensue, right?
They could start on fire, yeah.
You know, all the evil spirits. And so I ended up deciphering that it was this deck, and I had a couple other people kind of come through to kind of confirm that it was in fact this deck. And it had at least 2 different entities attached to it, which is a reason why if you're going to get a used deck, or you come in contact with a used deck, or you find it in the wall of your house or something, if you yourself are not an occultist, you should take it to an occultist or a medium or someone that can check it to see if it has spirits attached, to see if it has, because like once I cleared that deck, it was like all the activity in that corner just stopped, and it's been fine, you know, but it's definitely sentient. It has a mind of its own.
Now, when you have, like, if you have a full moon or something out there, I know that people will lay out their crystals. Would you lay out your tarot deck as well?
You could. That is definitely a way to charge it if you want to. Just working with your tools, every time you work with them, they will take on some of your energy, which is also kind of why, like, when they talk about the dangers of tarot, it's like, or dangers of divination, these tools take on your energy, right? And it can become sentient over time if you're not mindful. And so it's important to not only have like kind of a formal beginning and ending with a session with your tool, but also to clear the energy of it. So you can you can put it in sunlight, moonlight, ring bells over it, say prayers over it. If you're into Reiki, you can Reiki it. And just kind of basically imagine that whatever way you're using to charge or clear your tools, you just hold that focus and hold that image of it being filled with light, that anything that's in there might be dissipating, transmuting, and transforming, and then put it away so that it's fresh and ready for the next time you pick it up again.
And I remember when you were ringing the bells, and I think you're somehow ringing it in my skull. So I haven't forgotten that. Do you want to hear a bad joke?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Chuck says, Lincoln was a great soccer player. Every time he played, he always had 4 scores.
Oh, Chuck, you slay me. Oh my God. Gotta love the
We're trying to find a way to remove him from the history of this radio show. Carol says that Mega's book sounds great. We'll need to check it out. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you for listening.
Carol, please do me a favor. If you go out to Megas, and any of you who are listening tonight who've not heard of Megas or have always wanted to go, but maybe listening to Reverend Briana gives you a little bit of a push tonight, can you please let them know that you heard it on GhostBox Radio, please? That way we know that we're doing some good for Mega's books. So, yes. Now, Carol also asked the question, do you believe in putting out jar water when there's a full moon?
Sure. So the reason I'm laughing is because I'm like, it's not necessarily about belief for me. If I'm in the mood to make moon water, then yes, I would put it in a jar and put it out to be charged by the moon. That is something that you can do. And drinking that water, then you're imbibing that energy of that moonlight. It's just not something that I do very often as a practice, and that's why I giggled.
I mean, I've always understood when you put out water during a full moon, it turns into moonshine.
No,
okay.
No, it's a whole different process.
That's a slightly more involved situation.
Yeah.
For any law enforcement that's listening, I do not make moonshine. Let's just be very clear about that. So real fast, we have about 6 minutes left. So we'll just sit here in silence for that. The symptoms of spiritual attachments and possessions. You know, I've always
about that. Go ahead.
I've always been under the understanding. I mean, the very general when it comes to like exorcists always have like those four, signs of possible demonic possession. But what are you thinking when you want to talk about?
So there's a couple different things, and I want to actually reference this real quick. This is get that right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So this is a great book.
I'm gonna have her on.
You go. Okay, good. I'm glad you are.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Because what she does in this book is she does a whole, like, she does a bunch of case studies where she looks at criminal behavior, she looks at mediums, she looks at people with particular types of traumas, and creates these correlations of traits between people who have psychic abilities and people who tend to attract or become possessed by entities. So I brought that up because the list I'm about to go down, I did impart mine from this book. Okay.
Got it.
So one thing that is really strange, and I've noticed this sometimes, like if you see somebody who their eyes, like you've probably heard of the eyes turning black. Okay. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this, but oftentimes if somebody is possessed by a lower level entity, their eyes, their irises will turn black. That is a definite sign, and they may not even be aware that it's coming through. But I've seen it come through on people's faces many times. If somebody randomly has like very strange maniacal laughter that seems out of character, where it's like, are you planning something? Are you tricking? Like, what's going on with that? If they have random changes in body language or tone of voice, where it's like 1 minute they seem one way and then they switch into something else, that can be a sign of a spirit, low-level possession. Things like rolling eyes, twitching facial features, and also people who can be very cold or indifferent. Like sometimes you might think of someone as a narcissist, or the spirit of narcissism can be over them and display some of these traits. So those are some of this, like, and another one is like maybe like epileptic fits, or having like stiff body, stiff joints, shuffling feet. Those are all some signs and symptoms that you can see outwardly. Now, if you're concerned that you yourself might have something going on, some of the ways you can kind of tell is if you have blackouts, like you suddenly have problems with your memory, like you can't remember entire conversations. If you have constant intrusive thoughts that you can't control no matter what you do or how much you meditate or go to therapy, or if you ever feel like something else is kind of taking over, where your mental capacity isn't normal. If you have like an episode of some kind where you start to see like a tunnel, you start to get tunnel vision, or like you start to go deaf in your ears, like that could be something pressing in on you. And then if you hear disembodied voices that urge or instruct you to do certain things.
Yeah.
And then, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but like some additional things that can kind of contribute to attracting these types of entities that will do this to you is, if you've been deeply traumatized and you have some dissociative aspects of your psyche where you haven't totally integrated the trauma, or you're not comfortable with aspects of yourself, like in complete denial, that kind of energy can call in spirits. If you're the sort of person that doesn't have a strong sense of self, like you feel like a void or you feel empty, that can act like a vacuum to call these kinds of negative spirits in. And then if you're someone who's prone to nightmares or suicidal thoughts, these are all things that I would recommend going to see a therapist as opposed to going to go to a tarot reader to resolve, right? Like go through the proper channels, get the proper care. And when you feel grounded, then go back and explore whatever spirit activity you might have had.
That's really good advice, especially, just and don't try to self-diagnose, right?
Yeah, don't try to self-diagnose, never. And in fact, whenever somebody comes to me that talks about any of these issues, the first thing I ask them is, have you ever been diagnosed with a mental illness? Are you aware of it? Are you managing it? Are you taking care of it? Because I will not work with people who are addicts, and I will not work with people who are unmanaged with their mental health situations. Those are all prerequisites for getting spirit help with me.
Yeah, I mean, all that makes sense. Now, once again, how can they get a hold of you?
Okay, so you can find me at Magus Books in Minneapolis on Central Avenue, Wednesday through Saturday. I'm there noon to 6. You can also find me online at Anima Praxis. That is the name of my business. That's animapraxis.com. And you can also you're welcome to contact me through Facebook. It's Briana Lee on Facebook. It's Anima Praxis on Facebook. You're welcome to reach out to the store through email, Briana@magushealingcenter.com or Rev Briana Lee @gmail.com.
Awesome. We'll be back tomorrow talking about Lincoln. Everyone have a great night.
Great night. Thank you, everybody.
The progressive voice of Minnesota.
The war broke